All right, hi there, everybody. This is Mr. Von Oz. I'm so glad to have you back. Hey, I got a little math joke for you. Why was 6 afraid of 7? Well, because 7, 8, 9. That's why he was afraid. All right. So hey, after the last video, I was feeling a little bit bad that I didn't include any equations with fractions. I know you probably felt bad about that too, but I just wanted you to be prepared for anything that life or exams might throw at you. So I have just one equation here that I wanted to quickly go over with you, and as you can see, it involves fractions. All right. So what are we doing? We're solving linear equations. Okay, and this one just happens to have fractions in it. We have our toolbox here, right? That goes in that order. So let's see if we're going to attack this thing. All right, so the first thing we want to do is see if there's any distribution that needs to be done. And I can see that there is, right? This 1/4 is distributed to both of these, and this 1/3 is distributed to both of these. So I really have two distributions that I need to do. All right, so first I'm going to start off with the left side, because typically we work left to right. All right, and I have 1/4 times 2x. Now what's 1/4 times 2x? Well, let's do some scratch calculations over here. We'll just call this our scratch calcs. 1/4 times 2, what's 1/4 times 2? Which is 2 over 1. Well, if you learn how to cross reduce, see this direction right here? I got a 2 in the numerator and a 4 in the denominator. What's the greatest common factor there? What's the biggest number that divides evenly into 2 and 4? That number is 2. All right, so 2 divides into 2 once. 2 divides into 4 twice. Okay, so what did I do? I cross reduced. Okay, so now I can multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 1 is 2. So I end up with 1/2. So I have 1/2, and don't forget the x. Okay, now I have more here. I have 1/4 times 24. Don't forget to multiply that. 1/4 times 24. Well, what if I made this, instead of a 2, made that a 24? What happens then? I'm going to get a different solution here, or a different answer. Okay, once again, I can cross reduce here. What is my greatest common factor between 4 and 24? Pause the video and see if you can figure that out. All right, what's the biggest number that divides into 4 and 24? Well, that number would be 4. All right, so 4 goes into 24 6 times. 4 goes into 4 1 time. Okay, now I multiply straight across. 1 times 6 is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1, so I just get 6 over 1, or just 6. All right, so that's kind of good news. At least we got a whole number there. That's nice. All right, so we distributed on the left. Now we got to distribute on the right. Okay, 1/3 times x. Well, that's actually pretty easy. 1/3 times x is just 1/3 x. So I got 1/3 x. And now what's 1/3 times 6? Well, let's see here. What's 1/3 times 6? And that's just 6 over 1, right? And I'm just distributing here. 1/3 times 6. Well, look at, can I cross reduce there? What's my greatest common factor between 3 and 6? The answer is 3. 3 goes into 3 1 time. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Okay, in other words, there's 1 3 there, and there's 2 3s there. And now I multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 1 is 1, so I get 2 over 1, or just 2. more good news. I got a nice whole number there. We like that. Okay, now I'm done with my distribution. So I go to combine like terms. Do I have any like terms here? Are these like terms? They're not like terms. Why? Because they're not on the same side of the equal sign. They're on different sides. These also, they're not on the same side of the equal sign. So I have no like terms there. Great, so I can go down to addition principle. Okay, do I have any adding or subtracting? Yes, I do. So I need to get my x's to the left, I need to get my numbers to the right. Normally I like to get my x, I pull my x over first, but that's going to be a little more complicated. So I'm going to start by pulling my numbers to my right. Okay, I don't want numbers over here, right? I just want a variable. So let's get rid of that 6. Okay, so I get rid of a 6 simply by adding its opposite. And do unto one side as you do unto the other. It's the golden rule. 6 minus 6 is 0, it cancels. So let's bring everything down. So I still have that 1/2 x. That's gone now. I have equals 1/3 x. And then 2 minus 6. Well, if you have $2 and you lose 6, what do you have left over? You're $4 in debt, right? So you got a -4. Okay, so now, do I still have addition or subtraction over here? I do, I have subtraction here. I need to move this 1/3 x over here, right? I need to get my x's together. They need to have a family reunion. Okay, so the way I do that is with the addition principle. I just subtract 1/3 x, and now that's gone, isn't it? But I got to do that to both sides. All right, so 1/3 x minus 1/3 x is 0. They cancel. So now I'm left with this little conundrum right here, aren't I? 1/2 x minus 1/3. Let's go ahead and just ignore those x's for now, and let's just look at the numbers, okay? I got 1/2 minus 1/3. Let's do that over here in our scratch calculations. So I have 1/2 minus 1/3. All right, and remember, my denominators have to be the same. Okay, they're not the same, so I need to make them the same by finding equivalent fractions. Okay, how do I find equivalent fractions? I need to find the least common multiple of both denominators. All right, how do I do that? Well, let's take a look. What are the multiples of 2? The multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so forth, right? The multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12, and so forth. Okay, do we have a common multiple? I hope we do. 3, no. 6, yes. Look at that. The 6 is the least common multiple. All right, so what I'm going to do with that 6 then is I'm going to put those 6's right out there because they have that in common, right? They have that multiple in common. Now I just figure out my numerators, okay? And I do that by figuring, okay, what did I do to this denominator to get to 6? What did I multiply by? Well, I had to multiply by 2, didn't I? All right, so if I multiply the denominator by 2, I got to multiply the numerator by 2. So 1 times 2 then is 2. So 1/3 equals 2/6. All right, those are equivalent fractions. All right, how about 2 to 6? What did I multiply to get from 2 to 6? Well, I had multiplied by 3. And I got to do that to the top as well. Okay, so 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. All right. So 1/2 equals 3 over 6. That's true. Okay, and now my denominators are equal. I'm ready to subtract. Okay, so 3 minus 2 is 1. And I leave my denominator as a 6. Okay, so 1/2 minus 1/3 is 1/6. Whew. It's a lot of work there, huh? Just to get this x over here. All right, so this whole thing right here, the result of this is 1/6, and don't forget your x. 1/6 x equals what? I still got that -4 there. Right? Okay. So do I have any more addition? 1/6 x equals, nope, don't have any more addition. I move to my last step, multiplication principle. All right, so this is multiplication, correct? What is the inverse of multiplication? You probably said division, didn't you? That's correct. But there's another way of saying that. Remember, the multiplication principle is multiplying a number by its reciprocal. Division is just one way to multiply by a reciprocal, right? I'll give you an example here. I'll prove it. So if I have 4 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2 is 2, right? Now I can also change this into a multiplication problem. 4 times, now what's the reciprocal of 2? Well, 2 is 2 over 1. So if you flip 2 over 1 over, you get 1 over 2. What's half of 4? 2, right? So here's the deal. Division is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. They're the same. Now you might say, okay, what's the big deal, right? Why don't I just divide all the time? Well, take a look at this. Do I want to divide by 1/6? If I divide by, I mean, are you liking the looks of that? I mean, you could do that, but what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take the reciprocal of 1/6 and multiply it. Okay? I can actually save myself a little bit of heartache by right off the bat. When you have a fraction over here, instead of dividing, multiply by the reciprocal. It's easier. All right, so what's the reciprocal of 1/6? Is it 6 over 1 or is it -6 over 1? Just 6 over 1, right? We're not taking opposites. Okay? Reciprocal of 1 over 6 is 6 over 1. I got to do that to both sides. All right? Remember, what happens when I multiply a number by its reciprocal? What is the result? Well, 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. So I get 6 over 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Anytime you multiply a number by its reciprocal, the result is always going to be 1. That's what's so beautiful about reciprocals. All right, so this is going to just be 1. So I get x, or 1x, equals, now that's just a 6, right? -4 times 6, that's going to give me -24. That's my solution. That's the value of the variable that makes this equation true. And if you were really gung-ho, you could substitute in -24 in for that x and for that x and see if they actually equal, if both sides equal each other. All right? We'll let you do that. I hope this was helpful. I wanted to do this video because I wanted to show you how to solve equations that involve fractions. All right? So hopefully this was helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and there's notes in the description below. Till next time, may God bless you richly, my friend.